Okay, so when you hear the word anatomy, what's the very first thing that pops into your head? I bet for a lot of us, it's a lab, right? Maybe a scalpel, and definitely the whole process of dissection. Well, that's totally part of the story, but it's really just the first chapter of a much, much bigger book.
And hey, if dissection is what you thought of, you're on the right track. The word anatomy actually comes straight from the Greek word anatome, which literally means cutting up. So that connection is baked right into the language itself. But this is where things get really interesting, because that's where the common idea stops and the true science really begins.
Here's the best way to think about it. Dissection is just one tool in a massive toolbox. It's a technique. Anatomy, on the other hand, is the whole science, the entire vast field of study. Saying anatomy is dissection, well, it's kind of like saying astronomy is just looking through a telescope. The tool isn't the whole field, not by a long shot.
I just love this quote because it nails it perfectly. Anatomy is to physiology as geography is to history. See, anatomy is the map. It's the stage, the actual theater where all the incredible actions of life, that's what we call physiology, happen. And you can't possibly understand the story if you don't have the map of where it all goes down.
So, how did we even start drawing this incredible map in the first place? Before we jump into all the cool, high-tech stuff we have today, we've got to understand the classic methods, the ones that gave us our very first look inside our own bodies.
The original foundation, the bedrock of it all, is something called cadaveric anatomy. And yeah, that's the study of preserved bodies. This is what gave us our first macroscopic or, naked eye view of our internal world. This is literally how the first map of our muscles, our bones, and all our organs was created. And even back then, with this classic approach, there were two main ways to read that map. You could go the regional route, breaking the body down into parts, like studying just the head or just the arm. Or you could study it systemically, which means you follow one complete system, like the entire nervous system as it weaves its way through the whole body.
So this systemic approach, it really breaks the body down by its job, by its function. For instance, osteology is the study of the entire skeletal system, our body scaffolding. Myology zeroes in on the muscular system, the engines that power all our movement. Angiology is all about the vascular system, that massive highway for our blood. And neurology? That maps our command and control center, the nervous system. Each one is a complete network running through you right now.
But here's the thing. Studying preserved bodies, as crucial as it was, only shows us the theater after the play is over. So now, let's get into the modern era and see how this science completely transformed to study the body while it's actually alive and kicking. And this is the question, right? This is what drove the whole next revolution in anatomy. How in the world do you study the map while the story is still going on? How do you peek inside a living, breathing person without actually, hurting them? The answers to this changed everything.
So how did we pull it off? Well, it wasn't just one thing. It was a whole layered approach. You start with what's called living anatomy, using simple touch or palpation to feel for a pulse or check a muscle right through the skin. Then we go a layer deeper with imaging anatomy, using amazing tech like X-rays and CT scans to see inside without a single cut. And finally, we zoom into a level that the pioneers of anatomy couldn't have even imagined.
And this is where we enter the world of histology, or microscopic anatomy. At this level, we're not just looking at big organs anymore. We're studying the tiny tissues and the individual cells that make up the very fabric of those organs. It's like we went from looking at the entire stage to examining the individual threads woven into the curtain.
But wait, there's more. The map of the body isn't just a static 3D picture. The field is expanded even wider, now looking at how that map changes over a lifetime and how our map stacks up against others in the animal kingdom.
Yeah, because our body's map isn't fixed, it's always changing. A great example is embryology. This is the branch of anatomy that studies our development before we're even born, and it charts that unbelievable journey all the way from a single cell to a fully formed human. It's like the making of documentary for our own bodies.
And this adds two incredibly powerful layers of history to anatomy. Ontogeny, that's our personal story, our own development from day one. But then there's phylogeny, and that's our collective story. That's the evolutionary history of our entire species, written right into our DNA and our bones over millions and millions of years.
And to really get the full picture, sometimes we have to look outside ourselves. That's the whole idea behind comparative anatomy. By studying the bodies of other animals, we find these amazing clues that help us understand why our own bodies are built the way they are.
It's all about connecting our unique shape to what we do.
Okay, so we've established that anatomy is this huge, dynamic, incredible field of science. But let's get to the bottom line. Why does all of this matter? Why is having such a detailed, multi-layered map of the human body so important in the real world?
And this is where the rubber really meets the road. It's called applied or clinical anatomy. This isn't just abstract knowledge. This is the science of putting that map to work where it counts, in hospitals, in surgery, where this detailed knowledge literally saves lives every single day.
And these applications, they're everywhere. Surface anatomy is what lets a surgeon know exactly where to make an incision, just by reading the landmarks on your skin. Radiographic anatomy lets a doctor spot a broken bone or find a tumor without ever picking up a scalpel. It even goes all the way down to genetics, giving us the chromosomal blueprint for our bodies, and out to physical anthropology, which uses anatomy to understand the history of entire populations. This knowledge is truly all around us.
So the biggest takeaway here is this. Anatomy is not some old, dusty, finished map that's just sitting on a shelf. Not at all. It is a living, evolving guide. And with every new piece of technology, with every new discovery we make, we are constantly updating that guide, adding more detail and making it clearer than ever before.
When you boil it all down, anatomy provides us with the ultimate map of the human body, the most complex and fascinating thing we know of. It is the theater for the story of you. So the only real question left is, what will you discover with it?